What is up, everybody? My name is Alex, and today I'm here with Forum S to show the Catalyst controller. So the Catalyst controller is an 8-channel macro controller. They also have the Catalyst sequencer. Both of these are the same module. You can buy them separately, but if you buy one, you actually have the other. So if you want to try out the other one and then you end up liking it, all you got to do is flip over the panel. So you take off some jack nuts and these standoffs here, flip over the panel, put it back together, and you've got the other module. You just hold a few buttons to switch over the firmware and you're good to go. But we're going to do 2 videos. We're going to do one for each module because they are quite deep, and I think that they each deserve their own video. So starting out with the Catalyst controller, again, 8-channel macro controller. So what does that mean? Basically, we've got 8 outputs here, and each output has a knob. So these we're calling channels. So these are the channel knobs and the channel outputs, right? And basically, you can set up different scenes with different voltage offsets to send to other modules. So you can use this to send pitch information. You can use it to control parameters on effects. Another cool thing is to basically use parameters on a voice to make like a preset. And so what we're going to do is we're going to run through basically all of the features real quick using a very simple patch. And then we're going to go and do 2 other patches that are a little bit more complex to show what you might want to do or what you might be able to do with it in your own system. So to set up this patch, basically I'm just running this oscillator from the 258T here, running that into a low pass gate. And then we're running out to our output to listen to it. And I'm just going to hit this with some gates from our Catalyst sequencer. And this is just so we can hear the oscillator, and it's not just an oscillator droning on. It's just a little bit more interesting, hopefully not so boring. And then you can see here, I'm just going to go out of output 1 here, and we're literally just going to go into the volt per octave input on the 258. So again, these channels, each one can be controlled in different ways. You can send them to different places, but for this one demonstration, we're just going to go into the volt per octave and use channel 1. So now as I turn up this knob, we're going to hear the pitch go up, and we're going to see the LED turn blue for positive voltage and red for negative voltage. Put it in the middle, we're back to 0 volts. There are different levels of quantization and scales for these outputs that can be set per channel. So to do that, all you got to do is hold this bank button, which says quantize under it to remind you. And then you see the LEDs turn blue, this nice ice blue. This means that they are unquantized. So now we can go up. This is a chromatic scale, major scale, minor scale, and then we've got tons of other scales as we go through all the way to a green, which is actually a gate output. And I'll show that in just one second. So if we go to the unquantized scale here, we can basically, as we turn up the knob, you can hear it. It's incrementing every time the encoder clicks in basically semitones. But if we hit the fine button here, we can go up in finer increments to really dial in a voltage. So if you want to get something that's either on the microtone scale or you want to be doing a parameter and you just need to dial it in a little further, use the unquantized mode and then hit fine. If we go up here, I'll show you, we're just going to go to a minor scale. We'll listen to it go up through the scale. So that's the scales. And then if we go to gate mode, like I was saying, this is basically, as you turn this up, the brighter the green gets, the longer the gate's gonna be. And anytime we either press this button or find it with the crossfader, find this scene, that's when we're gonna send a gate out. This is a pretty crude example, just sending it into an oscillator, but it gives you the idea of what's going on. And you know, this would be really great for triggering an envelope or resetting an LFO, or maybe triggering a sample. Anytime you hit a certain scene, that action will happen. That's a good idea for the gate. So now the next thing I want to show is ranges. Each channel can be set to be a different voltage range as well. So I'm just gonna stop this so I can just talk and just show it to you real quick. For this one, we just hit shift and then morph. You can see that there's a gold label that says range underneath. Anything with a gold label, that's a shift function. Just gonna hold shift, and now we hit morph. And now we've got voltage ranges, right? So we can go through here and you can see this one is gonna be -5 volts to 10 volts. And we've got 10 volts here. We've got -5 to 5 volts. This one is 0 to 5 volts, unipolar, and then we've got 3 volts, 0 to 3, and we've got 0 to 1 there. So you can really dial in the amount of voltage range available on each knob. For this one, I'm going to leave it on -5 to 5. And so if we go to scale, we can see I've got this on the minor scale setting. And so now we can start this back up. And we can move on to scenes. So scenes are basically different setups of all of these knobs. So right now we're on 0 volts on 1. I'm going to leave that, but I'll go to 2 and I'll bring us an octave up. And then let's find a different interval for number 3. And then we'll go down negative voltage for number 4. So now we can kind of play this like a keyboard. And then when we let go, it's just going to go back to wherever the crossfader's at. So now this is a good time to talk about that. So if we move the crossfader, we're not going to hear anything right now, but you can see that by default, the crossfader moves from scene 1 to scene 8. So if we want to, we can just go to scene 8 and we can move our voltage there. And then when we go back with this crossfader, you can hear it smoothly transition. So it interpolates the voltage in between and gives you a nice line all the way up. If you're on 1 or on any other scene and you want to hear 8, you can press the button and you can dial in that voltage. So why this is called the pathway is because we can set up multiple scenes for our crossfader to go through. And so if we want to set up another scene, let's go to 2. Let's go to this one in the negative voltage range before we go to 8. So we're just going to bring the fader into the middle, so we're in between these two. We hit add, and then we hit number 4. And now it will place that in an equal place in between our 2 scenes that we already had. If we want to add another one, let's add this octave up now in between these 2. So we'll go there where we can see both. Add, click on that. And now you can see that it's distributed it a little bit more equal. So there's number 2, there's number 4, and then there's number 8. So this is our pathway of going through these. Now if we want to delete those, we can just go to where we can see the ones we want to delete. So I've got these 2. I'm just going to hit shift and add because you can see again our gold delete there. And we'll just click those 2 and now we're back to 1 and 8. We can also replace scenes just by looking at them with a crossfader. So we want to find the one we want to replace. So I'm going to replace number 1 and I'm going to replace it with 4 here. And to do that, we just want to make sure that's the only thing we can see. We hit add and then we hit number 4. And so now we're going between number 4 and number 8. If we want to replace number 8, we just go to look at it, hit number 1. And now we're going between 4 on this side and 1 on this side. So to switch that back up, I'm just going to go look at this one, hit add, hit 1, go over here, hit add, hit 8. And now we're back to that default thing. So we can also copy and paste scenes. So I'm just going to start the sequencer again here. And we're going to copy this scene over to this scene. So in order to do that, we're just going to hold the scene we want to copy, hit copy. And now when we want to paste it, we just hold copy and paste it where we want it to go. And now that one's there. So yeah, that's pretty easy as well. So the next thing I want to explain is the morphing functions and the different styles of morphing. This is again on a per channel basis. So you can switch this up per channel. So we're going to start up the sequencer and we're basically going to go between this guy, number 8. And you can see we've got a pretty linear thing going right now. And so if we want to switch up the morph, we can just hold the morph button and we can turn it down, turn the channel knob down. And the closer we get to white, the sharper we're going to get that curve, and it's just going to be in the middle. So now we've got a big dead spot over here, and it's just going to jump straight up to this other scene. But if we have other scenes set up over here, because these ones have this one has a different morph function, we see that this one's still fading smoothly, but this one's a quick jump. So now we can go over to morph, we can put that more in the middle, and you can see that we get just a little bit more dead spot, but then right there it starts a transition, and then we get to a dead spot there. So this is good if you want to be able to have a quicker behavior in between your morphing for just a certain channel. So that's nice that it's per channel there. The next thing we're going to talk about is slewing. So this one is actually global. So rather than all the other functions we've talked about that are per channel, this is more of a global for the crossfader and for the CV input. And so right now you can see that as soon as I move it, we get a change, right? We're going up to those 2 octaves there. So now what we can do is we can just hold shift and move channel 7. And now you can see these light up. And this is going to be the basically the speed of our slew. So I'll make it real long here, and I'm just going to go real quick. And then you'll hear that it's going to slowly climb up. So this is really great for your like CV if you're running in a stepped CV sequence from a sequencer or like a sample and hold or anything that's just jumping and you want to make it smoother. We obviously don't have to make it that slow. We can make it react a little bit quicker there. And then with channel 5's knob here, we can actually change up the shape of that slew as well. So that's a fun little feature that just helps out with the crossfader. We turn it all the way back down, and now we're back to just straight up linear following the crossfader with no slew. Another unique feature of the Catalyst controller is the recording function. So this is basically the crossfader recorder. So to do this, we just hold shift and hit record. And now we're getting this flashing button. That's telling us that it's ready to record, but it's not going to record until it either gets a trigger at the CV input, or the trigger input, excuse me, or we press that button. So if we press the play button here, you can see this is how long it's recording to the max length, but we hit play again, and now it's going to play whatever I played, and then it stops, it goes back to wherever the crossfader is. So now we have basically a sample of that recording, of that recorded movement that you can play back like a one-shot. You can also do this with a trigger input. So if we just take channel 1 from our Catalyst sequencer over here, I've got it set up to just send a gate on every one here. And you can see that it just keeps playing that for us. And then there is a clock divider, so if we want to make that go slower, we can get through further, and that's really nice for when you've got something like a 16th note clock and you want to go to bars. You can use a clock divider for that. And then once it's out, it's just going to stop. All right, so before we move on, the last things I want to talk about is the blind mode and the classic mode. So for blind mode, we can just hit shift and then we can turn number 1 over to the left. If it's red, that means we're in blind mode. And what that means is that we're not going to hear our changes. We can see that our scenes are changing when we hit the different buttons, but we're not hearing them until we get to them with the crossfader. So this is really nice for effects and things like that. When you want to set something up but not hear it, you can use the blind mode in order to do that. And so the last thing I want to talk about before we go into the next section of the video is the classic mode. I'm going to use this in our effects patch demonstration, but this is the classic mode, and it's called that because it's derived from the original Catalyst by Emblematic Systems that this is based on. And so when you go to classic mode, all we have to do is hit bank and hit play. And now we're in classic mode. And basically with this mode, we can only set up a pathway of 2 points. So we're always going to go from A to B. And so for this one, it's really easy to move around and just say, I want to hit A to 8, 1 to 8, 1 to 3. So real quick, while editing this video, I realized there was 2 things I left out that I wanted to mention. One, about the classic mode. We can change what's on the A side by holding Morph and then pressing a scene. So now if we go over here, you know, we do that one with the add button on B. And what this allows you to do is to not have to find it with the crossfader in order to replace it. And so now we can just say, I want to replace what's on B side while we're listening to fully A side. We can hit add, change that, we move over here, we can do morph, change this one, and move it back and forth. So wanted to mention that real quick, and then the next thing is just saving. So you can save the scenes and all the banks. You can basically save the state of the controller by holding bank and then holding morph for about 3 seconds. Everything will flash. Then your state is saved, you can power down. When you turn it back on, all your scenes will be there again. So just wanted to mention that before we moved on. So now that we know the basics of the Catalyst controller, I'm gonna bring a more complex rig up and we're gonna show it in practice with my system. All right, so I've just patched up this voice to be a little bit more complex and added some drums and then started getting carried away. So I decided I would turn the camera back on and just patch this up live. So right here, this is the voice we're getting sequenced by the Catalyst sequencer. And what I'm going to do on this particular patch is we're going to just use the Catalyst controller to manipulate different parts of this voice and different parameters that we have, and then we'll go on and do effects with a separate patch. So the first thing I'm going to do is just use this guy, and I'm just going to run number 1 into release, right? So this is release on the thing. We'll turn it up. Obviously I did jam a little bit, so we're gonna have to clear some of these out as we go. So the next one I want to do, I'm gonna plug this into the resonance input, and then as we turn up, get gnarlier and gnarlier. And then the next one, I'm gonna take the first oscillator from the 258 and I'm gonna run it through this axis up here. And I'm basically just using this as a VCA. So I'm gonna run this back out and run this into the FM input. And then you can hear when we turn that up, we get some weird FM stuff. And so what we're gonna do with that one is we're just going to go ahead and plug this into number 3. And we're gonna just plug in crossfade number 2 into that. So now as we turn that up, we hear that happen, right? So now when we go over here, we've got all that up there. I'm gonna turn down the FM a little bit, turn down the resonance a little bit. Maybe make it shorter. Cool. And then we can add some drums, just like this. I apologize if the 4 on the floor thing is not your thing, but I find it just easy to just get us somewhere. And then we're gonna drop in. All right, so now if we want to do a build, we could take out like kicks, right? All right, there we go. So the next thing I want to do is I actually want to, I'm going to use 8 for this one, but I'm going to plug this into the release on the hi-hat itself. And then as we build up, whoops, as we build up to this, we'll also build an energy there. There we go. So now we've got it and we can slowly morph to more and more energy. And then that's where we get this macro thing from, because we're turning all of these knobs virtually just with the crossfader. All right, so that's it for that one. You can see it's super fun just to start patching it into things and just build more energy. And for the next one, what we're gonna do is we're going to just run an entire mix through a bunch of effects and then use the Catalyst controller to control them. All right, so we're back. I have my effects patched up here. I'm going to just show you what's going on. We don't have the Catalyst controller patched quite yet. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to patch it as we go. And I'm going to show you how I'm using this for a master effects patch. So I have all of these effects routed up here. This is my patch. And we've got a send and return on the master of my performance mixer, and that's going through here. So we've got the overseer, high pass filter, low pass filter, and then we've got a delay that I'm just using the access to create a send effect for. And then we've got, or sorry, that was reverb, and then this is delay, right? So this one's reverb, this one's delay. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the Catalyst to make different banks or different scenes with different effects on them. So the first thing we're going to do is just plug into the master here, and then we're going to go over to bank. We're going to hit play. So that way we're in the classic modes, or the classic bank, I should say. And now we're just going to say, I want to go to add, let's go to 2, and we'll go over to 2, and we'll just push this up till we have a high pass filter. Bring it back down. Now we have this as like a little bit of break for our low end. Maybe go a little higher, so that way we can do like a, that's fun. All right, on 2, we're gonna plug into the delay. So now I'm just gonna say bank or add, we're gonna go to scene number 3 because number 1 is gonna be our clean bank. I'm just gonna leave that unaffected. So now we're on 3, and I'm gonna use this one. We're just gonna add some delay. All right, now we go to the next bank, or sorry, next scene. So just gonna add, we're gonna go to 4, and then we'll take number 3, and we're gonna run this into our reverb send. And basically we can go over here, and now we're just gonna do a reverb one. All right, so that's number 4. And then I think that that's all that we really need. I just need to combine them now. So I've got these 3 plugged in to my master effects, and I've got these 3 different effects. I've got the high pass we can just run to. I've got the delay, I've got the reverb. So now on this next one, I'm just gonna hit add, and I'm gonna go over to number 5, and we'll go to this side, and let's make a nice high passed delay. And I want this one to go kind of crazy and kind of disappear. So that way we can be like, boom. That sounds like fun. All right, we're gonna go to the next one, do a high pass reverb. And I put it on 1, right? So we messed that up. We're gonna go take that off. Just drop back down. We'll go over here and we'll add that again. My bad. Got too excited. There we go. All right, so that's it. I'm gonna add one more scene, and as I'm doing it, we're gonna say goodbye. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you 4MS for having me do these demos. I'm super pumped to be just a part of this project. And so we're gonna add this guy. We're just gonna slowly fade it out. Nice little intro, or outro, I mean. And that's it. Thanks again to 4MS. Thank you for watching. Catalyst controller is out now, so go pick one up and have some fun with it. Make sure to tag 4MS in anything you put online. And yeah, we'll see y'all later. Peace.